What's up, guys? Original Ghost here. Welcome you back to a video for the first time in a long time, actually. It has been quite a while, but we do have, what I'm going to do is a little compilation video of the 3 battles that I got for the UBC tournament. Basically, they're starting a new season soon, and I was lucky enough to be in the tournament to try to get into the league. Basically, winner was guaranteed a spot, and then they're deciding on one other person. They're actually doing that decision as we speak. So I'm going to go ahead and play through each battle with you guys and just do some post-com for it and stuff. And then we'll have some discussion afterwards. So let's jump into the first video. The first battle is against Grim Reminder. He's going to lead with his Rotom Wash, which is a huge threat on his team. I didn't really have a good answer for it other than Alolan Ninetales, but I love my Lopunny just because I figured I could I figured I could fake out something, and I fake out the Rotom. It does a decent amount of damage, so it makes me think that maybe he's maybe not fully physically defensive, but I decided to switch out anyways, just fearing the Will-O-Wisp. And I go out into Ninetales because, like I said, I was fearing that Will-O-Wisp. But he goes for Pain Split, which is perfectly fine with me. Ninetales is only going to lose 2% on that. That's really not a big deal. At this point, I wait for the Freeze Dry just because it will hit him super effectively. And it'll do a decent amount of damage. But he switches into the Marowak, which is a good play on his part to eat up this Freeze Dry. Though it does a decent amount of damage. Alolan Ninetales is really strong. I'm really excited to use that in the new meta. But so basically I'm just going to switch out here because I know I cannot take anything from this Marowak. And this was misplay number 1. I went out into Muck, and I probably should have gone out to Toxapex, but I built Muck to be physically defensive for some stupid reason. And I was like, all right, well, I resist his Shadow Bone. But he just takes me out with an Earthquake. I also kind of thought I would outspeed because I know Marowak is really slow, and I thought maybe Muck was a little faster, but he might have had some speed investment, or Marowak might just actually naturally outspeed Muck. I'm not sure. But I went into Mimikyu here because I knew I could set up a Swords Dance and start doing some decent damage to his team. So I set up the Swords Dance while he Shadow Bones me to break my disguise, which that's what I love about Mimikyu, is you get a free Swords Dance. Like it's so perfect. But I went ahead and set up a Swords Dance, which is good because I do have the Shadow Sneak, which will do a decent amount to some of his team. But he is going to switch out here into the T-Tar to take this Shadow Sneak. Because I Shadow Sneaked the Marowak just because I wasn't sure. Him outspeeding Muck really made me anxious because I was like, oh, I don't know how fast this thing is. I know Mimikyu is kind of fast, but I wasn't sure at this point. So I went for Leech Life here. He decided to switch into the Marowak again. I'm not entirely sure why he switched into Marowak. I guess he decided just to sack it off. Because it did a decent amount to the rest of my team, but it doesn't really matter. He sacks it off here to the Shadow Sneak that's coming up, and that's Marowak. That's Marowak down. But Mimikyu is looking a little worse for wear here with the Sandstorm and Life Orb damage. On top of the fact that its disguise is broken, and he sends in Golisopod. I do know Golisopod has Sucker Punch, so I'm just like, I'm getting up out of here. There's no way I'm living a Sucker Punch from Golisopod. Golisopod's attack stat is too high. So I switch into Toxapex, and his Sucker Punch fails. And so I decided to just get up the Toxic Spikes here because I figured that could be a good way to whittle down his team. It could help me whittle down that Rotom. It could help me whittle down the Blissey. Until it switches out, of course, but while it's in, it'll be taking toxic damage. So I do decide to set up Toxic Spikes, and I remembered that Rotom has Levitate, so I clicked Toxic Spikes and was like, well, I mean, I didn't really have anything else for Rotom coming in anyways, but he's gonna Volt Switch, which is doing a decent amount of damage to me, but not as much as I thought it was going to. But I decided to set up my second layer of Toxic Spikes just to get that Badly Poison on his team, as opposed to just the regular poison, so we can start racking up some toxic damage. And at this point, I figured Mimikyu is the least important member of my team. I can't really do too much to anything else on his team except for kind of the Tyranitar, but even then I have to land a Play Rough, and with my luck I'd probably miss. So I just sack off Mimikyu there so I can get a free switch into my Lopunny. And at this point I was in a pretty good position. I was like, sweet, awesome, I have my Mega Lopunny up against a T-Tar, which is regular T-Tar. I know I outspeed. Unless he's Scarfed, but at that point, I mean, he would be locked into Crunch, which we resist. So I went for my Fake Out, And I was like, alright, let me Drain Punch him. I can either knock him out or I can get my health back to full with whatever wants to switch in. He's going to switch in. I thought he was going to switch in Rotom possibly, but he just sacks his T-Tar, which, you know, it's a solid play. T-Tar, you know, wasn't going to outspeed anything else on my team except for the Toxapex, which, you know, he couldn't really touch anyways, except for an EQ, but... so I go in, he goes into Rotom, and I decide to protect here to see what he wants to do. I'm expecting the Willow, but he goes for Volt Switch here, and I was like, oh, okay, let me just get a Drain Punch off. Like, you know, I'll get some health back, he'll switch out, and we can go from there. Like an idiot, you never stay in on a Rotom because you know it has Will-O-Wisp. Just because it didn't go for it the first time doesn't mean it won't go for it the second time. So this is basically where I was like, oh, well, this is game because I have nothing to touch that Blissey anymore. So I'm pretty much just going to stay in here and just keep, or I'm going to switch out, excuse me. And I'm going to go straight into my Ninetales, just because I'm like, I have to get damage off on this thing. Like, I have to try to bring this back. We're looking a little worse for wear here. He Volt Switches out, and I believe he goes out into Charizard here, which, this is something that I noticed post-battle. His Charizard was already Mega Evolved, which actually does matter with his Charizard, but I don't think it would have mattered, I don't think it would have made the game any different. I mean, my Lopunny got burned. That was my only answer to Blissey, which you guys will see later on ends up being his win con, basically. So I send in Toxapex, and I'm just like, alright, well, let's just try to get off as much damage as we can on this Charizard. He's doing a lot with that Fire Blast, which is big considering we're especially defensive and we resist that, but it's a Charizard in the sun. So I set up a light screen just to try to take some of these hits a little better. We actually lived that Fire Blast, which is cool. But I went for a Scald, just trying to get off damage. It was my, you know, best attack against him. My other attack was Sludge Bomb and Ice Beam. So I was like, Scald's my best bet. He goes for the Solar Beam here. That's 100% going to knock me out. Just wanted to go for the safe KO there and not miss a Fire Blast, which, good play, good play. But at this point, I was like, alright, well, he lost the Sun, so that's good. I can go into Raichu here, and I can hit pretty much everything on his team pretty hard. He goes into the Blissey, though, however, and it's going to do absolutely nothing to this Blissey, because Blissey is OP as mess. And at this point, I was like, well, I mean, I don't really have an answer for this Blissey anymore, because Lopunny is my only answer, and it's burned now. But I did decide to switch out and go into the Lopunny, just try to get off some amount of damage to this thing, even though at this point it was pretty useless. You know, like, I wasn't going to be doing anything to this thing. But I figured maybe I could, you know, like 4 or 5 hit KO it. Like, if I could just get him to keep this Blissey in, I could potentially take it out. But he decides to switch out because, you know, he's not dumb. And he goes out into his Rotom, which he knows walls me 100%. Because Drain Punch isn't going to do enough to knock him out without me going down to burn first, especially because he does have the leftovers. So, you know, he's got this game in the bag at this point. I'm going to switch out though and go into Ninetales, just hoping he will, or he Pain Splits, or I'm going on Raichu, excuse me. Just hoping he Pain Splits or something. He is going to Volt Switch, which isn't going to do that much. But he's just going to go back out into Blissey here and just take another attack. He goes out into Golisopod, excuse me. Do I take out Golisopod here? Let's find out together, shall we? No, I switch out. I doubled out into Ninetales, or into Lopunny. And I just decided to get some fake out damage here. He goes for First Impression, though. So, you know, Golisopod's really good. It's going to be really good this format. So I'm in here with Lopunny, and I'm like, well, I can get fake out off. That's good enough. That's getting some extra damage on this Golisopod. But we're going to go down to the burn here, which is unfortunate. Lopunny wasn't able to do as much as battle. Oh, we did not go down to the burn, excuse me. Lopunny wasn't able to do as much as battle as I really wanted him to. Sucker Punch is going to take me out. So that's unfortunate. But the positive news with this is I get a free switch into whatever I want. And so with my cunning and my wisdom, I decided to go out into Ninetales because I was like, I can Blizzard something, I can Freeze Dry something. He is just going to sack his Golisopod though to this Blizzard. Then he's going to bring the Charizard in and bring up the Sun. He gonna bring up that sun, you know. So my Blizzard's not gonna do anything now because I might not even land it, but I'm gonna get a Moonblast off, which is good. We're getting some damage. So he's gonna take me out with a Fire Blast because, you know, he landed 3 Fire Blasts, but But I mean, honestly, I would have gotten one more Moonblast off and it wouldn't have really done, it wouldn't have mattered. But I go into Raichu here and I'm like, I just have to, I'm choice specs, I just have to spam Thunderbolt, and maybe I can pull out something. So we take out the Charizard, which is big, but he's going to go out into Blissey, of course, and we unfortunately can't really touch this Blissey. So I'm just going to keep spamming Thunderbolt. He's going to keep, you know, just eating that up. He's going to go for Heal Bell, which is fine, because, you know, honestly, we weren't going to have enough turns to where the Toxic was going to take him out. So I'm just spamming Thunderbolt. He's just taking him like a champ. He's going to Seismic Toss me here, which, you know, at that point I was like, that's a 3-hit KO. You know, he's got that. There's no way I can take him out in 3 hits, especially if he has Soft Boiled, which I do believe he shows here. I do believe he reveals the Soft Boiled. He does, just ensuring that a crit doesn't take him out, which would have been awesome. But yeah, so I mean, that's basically it for the first game. He is, I've already said GG because, like I said, Thunderbolt's not going to take him out. He's going to take me out with one more Seismic Toss after this turn. I'm going to get off one more Thunderbolt. But basically, my mistakes this game were letting Muck go down so early and allowing Lopunny to get burned, because Lopunny again was my only answer to this Blissey, and letting her get burned really shafted me. But anyways, it was a great game, Grim. So we're gonna go ahead and cut the video here, and I will bring you back when we have battle number 2. All right, guys, we are back with battle number 2. This time going up against NC Squared. So we see he has a pretty powerful team here. He doesn't have any new Mons, which was a pretty common theme from what I saw in this tournament, which was kind of disappointing. I was really expecting people to be packing some new Mons. I mean, I only have 3 on my team, but I drafted a lot more. But we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. So he's going to lead his Landorus Therian, as I am going to lead my Lopunny per usual. He's going to get the Intimidate off, but that's fine. We can get a Fake Out off for free, which is great. Just free chip damage. He's going to reveal that he is a pretty bulky Lando with the Rocky Helmet. So I was like, alright, well, we're getting out of here, because we're not going to be doing anything to this. We do have Ice Punch, but with the Intimidate, I wasn't sure if we could knock him out. And Lopunny is really, really important, especially to counter his Lopunny. So I was like, alright, we're switching out to Donphan. He's going to switch out himself into Bronzong. And I was like, sweet. Cool, we can get off a knockoff, and we can do some big damage with this. And we actually get a crit, which that crit mattered, because he would have been able to live 2 more. He gets his Stealth Rocks up, which I was like, that's fine. But I'm going to just set up my own rocks here just to ensure that they get up. And then he misses the Toxic, which is big, because that would have really whittled my Donphan down. But I get off the other knockoff, and it is going to knock him out. So, you know, the crit mattered, but I don't think it mattered too much. He is going to go into Lopunny here. And at this point, I was like, alright, he's going to Fake Out me, but the next turn, I can just Rapid Spin, and then his rocks are gone, unless the Landorus has Stealth Rocks, which he very well could, and he actually he ended up having the Stealth Rocks. But at this point, I was like, I just need to get these rocks away. We need to make sure Kyurem's coming in clean. We need to make sure Toxapex and Mimikyu are coming in clean. So I went for the Rapid Spin here. He goes out into Lando. He's going to Intimidate me. I'm going to get some Rocky Helmet damage from this Rapid Spin. But, you know, it's better than having the Stealth Rocks there. So I'm going to switch out, and I believe I'm going to switch out, actually. Do I switch out here? No, I'm going to stay in. He's going to go for the Earthquake. I am just actually going to go for the knockoff to get rid of that Rocky Helmet so that Lopunny can come in later and Ice Punch him and not have to worry about taking Rocky Helmet damage, because no one likes Rocky Helmet damage. It's stupid. It's bad. Rocky Helmet is such a good item. But I'm going to switch out now and go into Toxapex just to try to eat up whatever, because Toxapex was my specially defensive wall. And I realized that was a bad call. I didn't realize I was going to take that much damage. I thought Toxapex's base defense was going to be a little more, I thought his high base defense was going to be enough to hold me through. Excuse me. So I switched back on to Donphan here, and I'm just like, well, Donphan's basically useless at this point. You know, he's not living another hit from Lando. He's not really doing much to the rest of the team, so I'm just going to go ahead and sack him off here so I can get a free switch into whatever I want. So at this point, I was like, alright, what am I going to do here? What am I going to do here? What am I going to do here? So I switched into Lopunny just to get out some more Fake Out damage, and I do have Ice Punch on this Lopunny, so I was like, well, we can get some big damage off on whatever wants to come in. So we go with the Fake Out. He switches into the Reuniclus, which we do see is the Magic Guard Reuniclus, because it did not take any damage from that Stealth Rock. And I was like, well, we're not staying in here against the Reuniclus because Psychic will body us. So we're going to go ahead and switch out into the Alolan Raichu because we could take pretty much whatever this thing wants to do except for, you know, Shadow Ball. But he's going to Calm Mind. At this point, I was like, oh, crap. Like a Calm Mind Reuniclus, that's a problem. So I am Choice Scarf Raichu, and I'm just going to keep Thunderbolting. It's doing a decent amount of damage, but he does have the Recover. He's going to Psyshock me, which does a lot. And that is a 2-hit KO, but I am going to Thunderbolt here because I was like, I just need to get some damage off, then I can come in with Lopunny, fake out him, and then just Drain Punch him or something. But he's going to go for the Recover, and he's going to try to Recover Stall me here, which, as you guys have seen from multiple battles on this channel, I have a pretty good record with Recover Stalling. I normally get those crits. I want to recall you guys to the ITL battle with my Mega Ampharos and a Reuniclus, and we get the crit, and that takes him out. And I mean, the crit mattered, obviously, but that's what happens when you play defensive battles. You know, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it happens. You know, crits are a thing, and especially in defensive battles, like you're gonna get critted. You're gonna get critted. But he had to keep making that play. He had to keep making that. In his defense, he had to keep making that because he had to have his Reuniclus at full health. But he's gonna Earthquake my Lopunny on the switch in, which is fine because I can Drain Punch up later on against his own Lopunny, against the Rotom, whatever. Gonna fake out his Florges, which is gonna do a big amount of damage, which I was stoked about because I was like, wow, that's more damage than I expected. But I'm gonna switch out just because Moonblast will KO me from there, and I'm gonna go into Toxapex. He is just going to Moonblast me there. It's going to get a crit, and, you know, it's not doing anything, really. So at this point, I'm safe. I was like, alright, cool. Well, I can get some stuff going here. So, I believe I decided to Sludge Bomb here. Pretty sure that's what I ended. I Sludge Waved, excuse me. That's doing some big damage to that Rotom, actually. So I was like, sweet. But unfortunately, he is going to Volt Switch, or Thunderbolt, so I was like, well, let me get out of here because we need Toxapex for that Florges. And I go into Raichu, as he is just going to Will-O-Wisp me, I guess expecting the Lopunny to come in, or maybe the Kyurem, but whatever. Having Raichu burn doesn't really matter because, you know, it doesn't, whatever. So I go for the, I believe I go for the HP Ice here. Yeah, I went for the HP Ice expecting his Landorus to come in, which hindsight was a terrible idea, but I had to make sure that Landorus couldn't come in for free. And HP Ice probably would have one-shotted. If not one-shotted, then been close to where I could have outsped and gotten another one off. But I decided to switch out to Toxapex just because I know that Florges can't really touch me. He's going to go for the Wish here, which is kind of scary because he can get his Landorus back up to full health, even though it is really, really low right now. And I want that thing to stay low, but I was just like, well, I mean, he's getting a Wish off on something. I don't think I can one-hit anything. He's going to Intimidate me, which is fine. I am going to go for the Toxic Spikes here, just because, like I said, Landorus was going to get his health back no matter what. Sludge Wave wasn't going to take him out. Scald wasn't going to take him out. I didn't have Ice Beam, so I was like, whatever. Or maybe I did have Ice Beam. I did have Ice Beam because I'm going to Ice Beam him here. But I was just like, you know, he was gonna get it back. I don't know why I hit Toxic Spikes. That was a poor decision on my part, but luckily it ended up not biting me in the butt because I'm gonna take out the Landorus here with another Ice Beam. But he has his Stealth Rocks up now, and they're here to stay because Donphan is down, which is unfortunate because you know, Kyurem's not gonna appreciate that. Lopunny isn't gonna appreciate it. So he's gonna go into his own Lopunny here, and I wish I had Baneful Bunker just to protect from that fake out, but I decided to just switch out and sack off my Raichu because Raichu wasn't really going to do too much to the rest of his team. It did outspeed pretty much everything, but I was just like, you know, of the members of my team, he's the one that I could easily sack off. So I switch out into Lopunny here, and I was just like, all right, well, we can get a fake out off, and he's going to switch out into his Florges, I believe, which is a good play. I mean, that's solid. Preserve your Lopunny because we have a mirror match going on here. So I'm going to go for the fake out, and that's doing a decent amount of damage. And I was like, alright, well, I think we can just Drain Punch this thing, probably. And that should knock him out. So I'm going to go for the Drain Punch, and he lives on 7. Which I was like, oh crap, here comes the Moonblast. Here comes the Moonblast. But he goes for the Aromatherapy, which luckily for me, he went for Aromatherapy. Because because I was just like, well, I mean, Lopunny just went down there. But I'm gonna go for another Drain Punch, and then it's gonna fortunately pick up the knockout. Lopunny's looking pretty good right now, 37%. I mean, that's not as high as I want him to be, but it's higher than I was expecting him to be at this point. But I'm gonna switch out because, you know, I learned my lesson from the first match. I'm not gonna let him Will-O-Wisp me. So I go into Toxapex. I realized that he could just Thunderbolt or Volt Switch here, but he is going to go for the Willow, so I made a good play there, not letting Lopunny get burned. And at this point, I'm just going to fire off Scalds just to try to burn this Rotom, because I have a better chance of Scald burning him than Sludge Wave burning him, because Scald burns with like a 30% chance and Sludge Wave's like 10. So I was like, oh, let me just Scald him. He switches into Lopunny, and for the first time ever, I wish I did not have Toxic Spikes up, because I could have potentially burned this Lopunny with a Scald. But alas, it's doing 20%, which, I mean, is pretty solid for a Toxapex, not specially attack invested at all. So, I mean, I'm pretty stoked about that. I love Toxapex. I love its design. I love how bulky it is. I wish its HP stat was a little better, but it's whatever. So we are going to go down to the burn here. Or no, we're not. We're going to go back down to 7%. But we are going to drop to whatever attack this thing wants to do, and it's going to go for the return and take us out, which is fine. I mean, I was stacking Toxapex off. But at this point, I'm like, alright, well, let me go into Lopunny. I mean, we have the Fake Out here. If he stays in, he drops. We're going to take the Stealth Rock damage, which is fine. But we do go for the Fake Out here, obviously. And he's going to switch out. But I do believe his Lopunny drops on the entry, because it's at 8%. But I'm going to go for the Fake Out here, and I'm like, well, I don't know if I can take this thing out or not. I don't think Drain Punch is going to be enough, but I went for it anyways, kind of just hoping. And he is going to Will-O-Wisp me here, which is unfortunate, but I knew that I had Kyurem in the back. I knew that I had a Mimikyu with the Disguise still up. I knew I was okay. So I was like, alright, well, let's just Drain Punch this thing until hopefully we can kill it. He's going to go for the Pain Split, which is a little annoying just because it's just dragging it on and on and on. But he's going to win this battle against Lopunny, you know, because I'm just going to stay in and Drain Punch. We're going to get a crit there, which is cool. But, you know, it's still not going to be enough. He's going to Hydro Pump me and take me out. But the Rotom's really low, and I know Kyurem can come in and clean up. So I'm going to send in Kyurem, and we're just going to clean up. You know, Kyurem's going to do what Kyurem does best. He's going to come in and clean up. And that's why Kyurem Black is a monster. So he's going to take out the Rotom, which is good. And then he's going to switch into Lopunny, and I'm pretty sure Lopunny just straight up drops to re-entry with hazards. No, he lives on 2. And he doesn't go for the Fake Out here just because he knows it's not worth. He's not going to, even a crit Fake Out, I would still live. So that's going to be game 2, and I think I played a lot better this game. I think I read my opponent a lot better, but it was a good game by NC Squared. And I will cut this video here, and we'll have our third and final battle as soon as I get back. Alright guys, so this one's going to be a little faster just because this video is running a little long. So I'm going to leave my Raichu here as he's going to lead with his Ferrothorn. He's going to switch out into his Dusclops to frisk me for my choice specs. I'm going to Volt Switch out. That was my game plan from the beginning. And I'm going to go out into Muck here just because I know he can't really touch my Muck. And I'm going to go for a Knockoff, which does a decent amount of damage. Getting rid of that Eviolite, but he's going to Willow me. I kind of didn't see that one coming, honestly. I didn't. I know Dusclops gets Willow, but I just wasn't expecting it. And he's going to go for the Pain Split there, which is big because he's going to get back all of his health. So I'm going to just keep spamming Knockoff. He's going to keep going for Nightshades, and eventually my Muck is going to drop here. But, I mean, I misplayed there. I misplayed there really hard. You know, I let Muck go down too soon, way before his time. But I'm going to switch on to Raichu here just because I know I can either Volt Switch or go for the Psychic, but I decided to go for Volt Switch. And looking back, that probably wasn't a good play because, you know, he was predicting me like a champ there. And at this point, I was a little flustered. I was like, oh man, Muck went down real early. And Donphan just took 83% from a Nidoqueen and it's down. I was like, there's both of my walls. And I was like, oh, both of my walls are down. But I went to Lopunny, and I was like, we can get a Fake Out off, you know, and even if he switches into Dusclops, which he ends up doing, we can still Fake Out him because of Scrappy. And I was like, we can just return here. I don't feel like Drain Punching because You know, there's no point in doing that. So he goes out into Bubble Wrap, which is his Ferrothorn, and I just Fire Punch because I have Fire Punch, so why not? And he's gonna set up his Stealth Rocks, and he's gonna Protect this turn just to try to get some HP back. But even with the Protect, I still knocked him out with a Fire Punch because it was doing 64%. So he's actually going to switch out here into his Blastoise, which I'm not going to do anything to, really, even with a crit. And I was like, I don't want to stay in here. I don't want to risk the Scald Burn. So I switch out into Raichu just because I'm like, I can totally take on this Blastoise. He is going to go for the Scald, trying to get that burn. That's going to do a big amount of damage to my Raichu. But I'm going to predict his Nidoqueen switch in here and go for the Psychic and one-hit KO that Nidoqueen. Get out of here! Oh, get out of here, Nidoqueen! But he's going to go back out into his Ferrothorn, and I am Choice Specs locked into Psychic. He knows that. He's going to Leech Seed me, and it's pretty cheeky. You know, he does some pretty smart stuff here, protecting and letting me go down to Leech Seed. You know, solid play. Solid play. Solid play. That's just good battling. That's just good battling, you know? Like, you can't even be upset because it's good battling. But I'm going to switch into Salazzle here. Salazzle can do a decent amount of work to most of his team. So I'm going to take out his Ferrothorn here, and here I'm looking pretty good. I'm like, alright, sweet. We still have Lopunny. We still have Kyurem. Salazzle's looking pretty solid, but he's going to outspeed me, telling me that he's obviously Choice Scarf, and one-hit my Salazzle. And I was like, oh, crap. Alright, so we go for the Fake Out here. It's doing 30%. I'm like, Drain Punch is 100% going to take this thing out. We've got this. So he attacks me, and he gets the Freeze. And I was like, alright, well, that's game right there. Because it just is. But he did tell me afterwards that his Infernape was Scarfed, so it honestly probably didn't matter. I might have been able to take out the Blastoise as opposed to, you know, what happens here where I don't take out the Blastoise. But other than that, it really probably wouldn't have been a different battle. So yeah, I mean, honestly, letting Muck go down that early may or may not have mattered, but I think he played really well. Darkroot played really well. I've told him good game multiple times just because that was a really solid game, and even with the freeze hacks, you know, I mean, honestly, like I was saying, like, I don't think it mattered too much, especially since he told me that his Infernape was Choice Scarfed. I would have been able to take out the Porygon a little better. He probably would have switched into Blastoise, would have Drain Punched him, probably wouldn't have taken him out. He would have countered me, and then I probably still would have lost. But that's going to be it for this. That's going to be the end of the tournament. They're deciding on who gets in and who doesn't, but I am out of the tournament. But I do want to thank you guys for checking out this video and encourage you guys to check out the channel if you haven't already. I'm going to be uploading stuff some more regularly from now on. But see you guys later.